unfold.
Way back in 1977, we launched two little robots on a journey to the outer planets and beyond. But this wasn't just some scientific mission. Nope. The Voyager program was one of the most profound, most philosophical things we've ever done. It was our attempt to send a message in a bottle, a greeting from our tiny, fragile world out into the vast cosmic ocean. And this quote from President Jimmy Carter was included on a golden record attached to each of those spacecraft. It just perfectly captures the whole spirit of the thing, right? It's this message of pure hope. A time capsule thrown into the darkness, carrying a tiny piece of who we are to a future and a destination we can only dream about. You see, the Voyager story is really two stories in one. You've got the machine and you've got the message. Let's start with the machine. Its incredible journey was only possible because of a super rare planetary alignment, something that only happens once every 176 years. It set the stage for what we call the grand tour of our outer solar system. Now, the key to the whole thing was this absolutely brilliant bit of orbital mechanics called a gravity assist. The best way to think of it is like a cosmic slingshot. The Voyager probes would literally use the immense gravity of one planet to fling themselves toward the next, picking up speed with every single flyby. This one trick is what made visiting all four gas giants with just one mission possible. It was a game changer.
And oh man, what a tour it was! I mean, over just one decade, everything we thought we knew about the solar system was completely rewritten. Voyager just kept sending back these incredible postcards from these distant worlds, and each one was more surprising than the last. So let's take a look at what they found.
First stop, Jupiter. Before Voyager, we were pretty sure active volcanoes were an Earth-only thing. And then we saw this. Volcanoes literally erupting on Jupiter's moon, Io. But even crazier was finding a fractured icy surface on another moon, Europa, which hinted at a massive ocean of liquid water hiding underneath, a potential home for life way out there. Next up, Saturn. Voyager showed us that those majestic rings weren't solid bands at all. No, they were this incredibly complex system of thousands of tiny individual ringlets all being herded into place by little shepherd moons. And it was here that Voyager 1 made a huge decision. It did a close flyby of the moon Titan, and that move used Saturn's gravity to fling it up and out of the plane of the solar system, starting its lonely, one-way trip into interstellar space. So 5 years later, Voyager 2 arrives at Uranus. It's the first and, to this day, the only spacecraft to ever visit. And what it found was just, well, it was weird. Its magnetic field is tilted way over on its side, making this chaotic corkscrew pattern. And its moon, Miranda, looks like someone smashed it to pieces and then just kind of messily glued it all back together. The final planetary stop was Neptune, way out in 1989. And instead of some quiet, frozen world, Voyager 2 found a planet with winds faster than the speed of sound and a storm the size of our entire Earth. It even saw nitrogen geysers erupting from the moon Triton, proving that even at the coldest edges of the solar system, worlds could still be geologically alive. And with that, the grand tour was complete.
But that was only half the story, right? The grand tour. That was the legacy of the machine. Now let's talk about the message, the Golden Record. This cultural artifact designed to sail the cosmos for, well, pretty much an eternity, long after you and I are gone.
So why gold? Well, it's simple. Gold is incredibly stable. It doesn't rust, it doesn't corrode. That means the delicate little grooves that hold all our sounds and pictures will be protected from the harshness of interstellar space for over 1 billion years. Just think about that. It is, by far, the longest-lasting thing our species has ever made.
Now get this, the record actually comes with an instruction manual etched right onto its cover. This is where the team's genius really shines. They use the fundamental physics of the hydrogen atom, the most common element in the entire universe, to create a universal clock. The idea is that any civilization advanced enough to find this thing could use that clock to figure out exactly how to play the record at the right speed. The cover also gives any potential finders two totally independent ways to figure out when and where this thing came from. There's a pulsar map that basically triangulates our sun's position using 14 rapidly spinning neutron stars. And just as a backup, there's a tiny sample of uranium-238 which lets them date it using radioactive decay. The key point is this: the record tells them not just what we were, but when and where we were. So what did we actually send? Well, the committee, which was led by the legendary Carl Sagan, had this absolutely impossible job: create a portrait of an entire planet. What they ended up curating was a kind of cultural Noah's Ark, packed with sounds, music, and greetings meant to represent all the diversity of life on Earth.
The record has this incredible 12-minute sound essay that tells the story of our planet. It starts with geology, volcanoes, wind, thunder. Then it moves into biology, the songs of whales, crickets, birds, and then it gets to humanity. The sound of a heartbeat, laughter, a kiss between a mother and her child, and finally, the roar of a Saturn V rocket, the very technology that carried us to the stars.
Sagan believed that music was the best shot we had at communicating pure emotion. And the selection is just breathtaking. You got the mathematical beauty of Bach, the raw, youthful energy of Chuck Berry's rock and roll, the deep despair and resilience in a blues track by Blind Willie Johnson, and the ancient beauty of music from China and Senegal. It's a playlist for the entire universe.
And speaking of Chuck Berry, there's a fantastic story there. Apparently, when a consultant argued that rock and roll was way too adolescent to be included, Sagan just shot back, there are a lot of adolescents on the planet. And so Johnny B. Goode made the cut. And it's just this perfect snapshot of 20th century energy.
But, beyond all the science and the art, the Golden Record is carrying a secret. Etched into its very grooves is one of the most remarkable and personal love stories you'll ever hear. A story that is literally flying through the stars right now.
It all starts on June 1st, 1977. Carl Sagan and the record's creative director, Ann Druyan, were just colleagues, working under this intense pressure to finish the project. And then, in one spontaneous, life-changing phone call, they realized they were in love. And right then and there, without ever having even kissed, they decided to get married. It was a true eureka moment of the heart.
Okay, so get this. Just 2 days after that phone call, Anne goes to a hospital. The team wanted to put the electrical signals of a human brain on the record, on the off chance that some super advanced civilization could maybe decode a person's thoughts. Anne volunteered to be the launch.
And for 1 full hour, hooked up to an EEG machine, what do you think she thought about? Well, she thought about the history of ideas and civilization, but overwhelmingly, she said she focused her thoughts on the wonder of love, of being in love with Carl. So encoded on that record, traveling through the Milky Way as we speak, is the literal electrical signature of a young woman falling in love. How incredible is that?
So the Golden Record was our message to the cosmos, but 13 years after it launched, at Sagan's request, Voyager turned its camera around one last time. It was to deliver a final, profound message, not out to the stars, but back home, to us. And this is what it saw. From nearly 4 billion miles away, that is Earth, a tiny speck of light, taking up just 0.12 pixels, suspended in a beam of sunlight. They called it the pale blue dot, and it was the very last picture Voyager 1 ever took before its cameras were shut down forever.
Sagan's words about this image are maybe the mission's greatest legacy. He said, "Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us." It underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. The Voyager spacecraft are going to fall silent pretty soon, but their journey and their message will keep going for eons. They carry the very best of us, our science, our art, our hope, and even our love. Which really leaves us with one last thought, doesn't it? If you had to pick just one single sound to represent everything we are, what would it be?